In this video, I'm going to go through how to navigate your way around a typical pool plant room, because especially if you're new to pool plant operations, everything's unfamiliar and it can be quite tricky to actually identify what all of these different components are. The plant room that you end up visiting on an open pool plant operator course, it might actually not help you that much in terms of identifying the components in your own plant room. What you need to do, especially with this type of course, with an online course, is spend some time in your own plant room and getting familiar with the way that your plant room works. But it can be tricky the first time you go in there to start that process off. If you've got multiple systems, multiple circulation systems in your plant room, take them one at a time. Don't try and navigate everything at the same time. That would just be very, very difficult. So if you've got a spa system and a swimming pool system in the plant room, work your way around the spa system first, or the swimming pool system first, and then do the same with the other. I'm going to go through how I do it in the hopes that it helps you to navigate your own plant room. What I've found is the best way of doing this is to basically identify the point at which water is coming into your plant room. We'll call that point A, and then basically follow all this pipe work along through all the components, the whole journey really that water is taking from the moment it comes into the plant room, or from the point at which it comes into the plant room, point A, through everything until you get to the point where the pipe work is going back, returning back to the pool. We'll call that point B. But in identifying point A, it's often easier to identify the filters first and then work back from there. You might not even realise or be aware of the direction that water's moving through the system initially. So you've got to kind of orientate yourself and then work from that point onwards. So what I do is I go into the plant room and I identify the filters first, because that's usually the easiest thing to identify, is the filtration system, because it's the biggest component usually in the plant room. There may be one filter, there might be multiple filters, but they all tend to look the same. Some are smaller, some are larger, but you can usually identify them fairly easily. They're closed vessels with sand in them. You won't be able, usually you can't see the sand, but you can basically identify the filter. Starting at the filters, then there'll be pipework going into the filtration system, or into the filter if there's one, or if there's going to be pipework going into each of the filters if there's multiple filters. So identify the inlet pipework. So on a conventional swimming pool filter, it'll be the topmost pipe leading into the filter. If you've got a spa system, that's likely to have a filter with a multiport valve rather than individual valves. So identify where that is and then start moving backwards. Because what we're trying to find is we're trying to get to that point where the water is coming into the plant room from the pool. So start moving backwards from the filter and follow the pipe work all the way back, and then eventually you'll come upon the circulation pumps, or the filtration pumps they're sometimes called. These are the things that are making all the racket in the plant room. Because the water is always being pumped, it's being pushed through the filtration system. It's never being pulled through the filtration system. In pool plant rooms, water is always being pushed through. So if you trace that inlet pipework back, you'll get to the circulation pumps. Keep on going backwards, follow the pipework, and further upstream, so to speak, you'll come to where the water is, the pipework is bringing the water in from the swimming pool or the spa. And what you usually find, not always, but usually you'll find two main pipes coming in, and it might be coming out of the ground or through a wall, and there'll be valves usually as well. what these two pipes are is, one of them will be the pipe that's basically drawing water from the base of the pool, from the pool sumps. The other one will be the pipe that's bringing water in from the surface water draw-off system. So if you've got a skimmer basket pool, for example, those skimmer baskets will have pipework that will usually join up to form one common pipe, and that's the pipe that you're seeing coming into the plant room directly from the skimmer system, the skimmer basket system. If you've got a deck level pool, then the pipework will be from the balance tank, because the surface water draw-off system in a deck level pool is basically the overflow. The displaced water is flowing over into a perimeter drainage channel that then goes into that drains into a balance tank, and there'll be water being drawn off from the balance tank. And so one pipe will be balance tank, one pipe will be the base of the pool. You might see a smaller bore pipe as well, with a closed valve. If you've got a vacuum, a vacuum inlet that you attach like a flexible hose, there's usually a cover in the pool, like a cap that you can unscrew, and then you can put the flexible hose in there, screw that in, and then you can attach a vacuum attachment on a telescopic pole and vac the pool. So that there'll be pipe work associated with that's coming into the plant room as well, to get the suction from the circulation pumps. So work backwards from the filters to the circulation pumps, and then work backwards again from the circulation pumps to this point A, like where the water's coming into the plant room. And then that's your starting point for getting to grips with the whole system. So moving from point A all the way through to point B, identifying all of the components as you go. So once you're happy that you know where water's coming into the pool, coming into the plant room, sorry, you can then take a journey on with the water through all of the plant room system. So what you'll probably find is that if you've got two pipes coming in, one from the surface water draw-off system, one from the base outlets of the pool, then they'll join up into one common pipe. You can you'll see it when you're looking at it. You'll see the pipe work coming in, and you'll see that it joins up. By this stage, you know what direction the water's traveling in, so you can just follow it along. Keep going until you come to the circulation pumps, and then prior to each circulation pump, you'll see that each pump has got a strainer basket upstream of it. So there's the pre-pump strainer baskets, then it's the circulation pumps, and carry on following the pipe work along, and you'll come to the inlets to the filters, because the filters is the next component after the circulation pumps. But along the way, on the pipe work between the circulation pumps and the filtration system, you'll probably see chemical feed lines or sample feed lines coming into or being taken from the main pipe work. The first thing you're likely to see coming off the main circulation pipe work between the circulation pumps and the filters, pretty soon after the water's gone through the circulation pumps, is the sample water that is taken to the automatic monitoring equipment. Follow that along. So when you've identified it, follow it, trace it back and see where it's going. And then what you can do with that is if you do follow that sample line, and you do indeed find that it's leading to the automatic monitoring equipment, follow that through as well to the point where what you'll probably find is it either reconnects to the main circulation pipe work on the suction side of the circulation pumps. That's to say, that bit of pipe work between point A, the origin point, and the circulation pumps, all that pipe work is actually under suction, so it's under negative pressure rather than positive pressure. And so what usually happens is the sample line is taken from downstream of the circulation pumps, the delivery side it's often called. So that's under pressure, and then it's taken all the way through to the automatic monitoring equipment, goes through the monitoring equipment, and then reconnects back to the suction side of the pipework. So it's basically on a continuous loop from the just after the circulation pumps right through the automatic dosing equipment and back into the suction side. So it gets reconnected prior to the circulation pumps, and that gives it so it's kind of borrowing pressure from the main circulation line. So there's a constant flow of water going through that sample line. So that's probably the first thing you'll encounter. You might see also on this run of pipe work between the circulation pumps and the filters that there's a chemical injection point, or there might actually be two chemical injection points on this run of pipe work. One of them, if you've got a coagulant dosing system, which ideally you should have, follow that chemical feed line back and see where it comes from. What you might find is that if you follow it all the way back, you'll come to a tub of polyaluminium chloride, for example, which will be the coagulant. Another chemical that's often injected in this part of the system is the disinfectant. A lot of plant rooms have disinfectant being dosed prior to the filters. But again, the way to determine this is if you do find a chemical being injected, is follow that pipework back and see what's at the other end of it. So do you encounter a tub of polyaluminium chloride, in which case, well done, you've identified where polyaluminium chloride coagulant is dosed into your system? Or does it go back to a tank of calcium hypochlorite or sodium hypochlorite, in which case you've identified where the disinfectant is dosed into the system? Or does it go back to your automatic monitoring equipment, in which case you've successfully identified the sample point? And this sort of thing gets easier over time. It might sound like a lot of hard work, and maybe initially it will be, but you'll soon get used to very quickly being able to identify and work your way around a pool plant system. Going back to the filtration system, because that's the point that we've got up to, is you've identified where the inlets to the filtration system is. So obviously the water's being pushed into the top of the filters and is being pushed down through the filtration media. It's coming out of the bottom of the filtration system. And obviously if you've got 3 filters or 2 filters, however many filters you've got, you're going to have outlet pipework coming from each of those filters. The pipework might actually be coming out of the front though, because the collection system is at the bottom, internal to the filtration system. If it's a system with a multiport valve, you can do the same sort of thing, identify the outlets. With the valve handles, if you've got butterfly valves, if the valve handle is running parallel to the pipework, then it's in the fully open position. So on that principle, you're able to figure out where water's going and where water's not going. So you can basically continue to follow the path that the water is taking through the system. So the next thing you'll come across, if you carry on following the pipework onwards, after the filtration system, you might not have this, but if you have got ultraviolet, it will be downstream of the filtration system, and what you might encounter is a branch coming off the main circulation pipework being directed through the UV system itself, and then reconnecting back up with the main circulation pipework. Carry on, and then what you'll encounter is the heating system, and again, what it might look like is a branch coming off, smaller bore pipe work coming off the main larger bore pipe work of the main circulation system. Follow it along, and you may actually be able to go all the way to the heat exchanger itself. In many plant rooms, the heat exchanger is visible. You'll probably be able to see two lagged pipes connected to it as well. Those lagged pipes, or they should be lagged, are the flow and return pipes from the heating system. So from your hot water heating system, there'll be very hot water feeding into that heat exchanger and then being flowed through it and then coming out and going back to the heating system on a return. And then there'll also be pool water flowed through the heat exchanger, picking up the heat from the hot water heating system, and then carry on. And then somewhere around this point, you'll probably come across another chemical being injected into the system. This is likely to be the pH correctant. In the majority of plant rooms in the UK, the disinfectants are highly alkaline, so there's always a necessity to add in some sort of acidic substance to bring the pH back down. This is usually the final thing to be injected into the system because it's acidic. You wouldn't want to ideally inject it prior to the heat exchanger, etc., because that would do a fair bit of damage. Sometimes you can have acid being dosed in pre-filter, not often, but again, the only way to know for sure in your plant room is to trace that chemical feed line and see where it comes from. If you've got a UV system, your chlorine or whatever you're using as a disinfectant will usually, well, it should be dosed downstream of the UV system as well. So find out what the case is with your pool. It's important to know where your chemicals are injected. Carry on following the main circulation pipe work, and eventually if you carry on following the pipe work along, it'll disappear into a wall, or it'll disappear through the floor, or it may disappear upwards. This is the return pipe work now back to the pool. The pipe work will branch off into smaller bore pipe work that basically distributes the water back to wherever your water's coming in via the inlets in your pool. And so this is point B. So you've taken it right from point A, where the water comes into the plant room. You've gone through all of the components, and you've taken it all the way to point B, where the water's going back to the swimming pool itself, or the spa pool itself, whatever you've got. Basically, it's always tends to be pumps, then filtration, then heating, and that tends to be the same in all plant rooms. You always have pumping, filtering and heating. The only other thing is the chemicals. You may have polyaluminium chloride being dosed, and that's always pre-filter. You'll have a disinfectant being dosed. So if it's if you've got UV on your system, the disinfectant will be dosed post UV, so downstream of the UV system. If you haven't got UV, it could be being dosed pre-filtration or post-filtration, and then there's going to be pH correction, which always tends to be dosed after the heating system. And then there'll be, if you've got automatic dosing, there'll be a sample point coming from the circulation pipe work just after the circulation pumps, going through the automatic dosing system, and then reconnecting with the circulation pipe work on the suction side of the circulation pumps, which is to say upstream of the circulation pumps. But what I would say is, yeah, spend some time in your plant room, get familiar with it. Obviously be safe while you're down there. Let somebody know that you are down there and you're just trying to familiarize yourself with everything. Ask experienced people on site, if there are any, to help you out with components that you can't identify. If it's making sense and you're able to identify all these components, and that's great. If you are struggling though, if there's some components where you just don't know what they are, or even if you're still finding it daunting and you don't know where to start, just give us a call, or maybe take some pictures of components. If there's only one or two components, you know, you might be fine with everything, but there's just one or two components, you're not sure what it is, just take a picture and send it to us and we'll help you out with that.